Welcome to Jerusalem on the second part of our story. Oh my god, I sound embarrassing right now.
We gotta hold for backup. He's dead if we wait. We gotta get him out now. Hey, see that? Watch your fire! The bull never...
Welcome back. We take our fight to Jerusalem. Our cast is a strike team sent to resecure a scientist known as Green Gold. Time to break down the next campaign in this game. The level starts with the team approaching the house to rescue Green Gold. As we spoke about last episode, this story will look more at the big picture. Green Gold is some form of weapons developer that can assist in superior firepower against the infected. So, that's the rough start for now. Let's look at some behind the scenes information as I want to cover the development of the game. The game was developed by Saber and had around 100 consistent developers throughout its development. The game, unlike some others, Friday the 13th, actually acquired the license, so that was a good start. To put it in comparison, GTA 5 was worked on by 1,000 people overall. Hogwarts Legacy has over 150 devs, which, I mean, no one likes that game anymore anyway. And Titanfall, roughly over the first two games, with an obvious increase over the second, had around 90 developers. So, for a game the size of World War Z, 100 people seems about average, but I'm obviously no expert in game development, so I might be wrong there. Now that we have covered the rough background of development, I want to discuss why this game is mediocre. In the first episode we looked at what the game did well, but this series is looking at games that are arguably objectively bad, but subjectively good. In the case of World War Z, I believe that it didn't get enough support and refinement throughout development, so although the game is fun, AI are ironically brain dead, aiming and movement feel clunky, and animations are lackluster. A lot of reviewers, and this isn't player reviews, this is game journalist reviews, such as IGN, gave the game roughly about half of the rating. So we're talking stars wise 3 out of 5, we're talking out of 10, 1 to 10s, we're talking about 6 to 7. So, and that's at best. When you look at player reviews, you're getting 8 to 9 in some cases, which is really good, but the game was relatively given meh to about average ratings, and I'll cover ratings in a future video more generally. So, that begs the question, or a few questions. Why am I defending this game if it wasn't received well? Why was it received around average at best? And is the title of Underrated Gems appropriate, presuming the game is correctly rated? Well, the game's reviews are fair, mostly. I believe the game is underrated in the sense of attention, and I feel the game's negatives kill player reception, leading to the game's early downfall, when the game's cons never outweighed its pros. For future reference, I plan to move the channel towards making overly optimistic videos, which you might notice is now the new channel name, as I've decided to rebrand. Anyway, let's go through and get back to the game, looking at these pros and cons we've already talked about a little bit. Something I want to cover a bit more this video is external reviewing, comparison to other games, and like I've already covered, development, so we'll get into that a bit more now. When looking at the game's development history, supposedly there is a level of inspiration from Left 4 Dead, and anyone who's seen either game can tell very quickly. So, how does it compare to what its inspiration is? I'd argue the story is more interesting, as Left 4 Dead has more of a we just need to survive plot to it, which I've discussed in the first video, is a lot different. Left 4 Dead handles immersion better and animation detail. Technically it's less impressive. Now, before anyone gets annoyed that I'm saying this, I know Left 4 Dead is old, and it's built for computers that couldn't run as much. And that's not what I care about, I simply want to compare the games as they are similar. Obviously, Left 4 Dead wins in general, but Left 4 Dead doesn't have some of the benefits that World War Z does. Even if the games did have the same amount of processing power, I still think World War Z manages many details of zombie survival in a much more improved sense and experience. Speaking of World War Z's improved story, we actually need to get back to that. So, after stopping the Horde from killing Green Gold and defending his house, we move to secure some briefcases of important information for activating this heavy firepower that we've been discussing. Then, the team need to make it to the extraction point, and I'll give you the final cutscene of the mission and we'll get on to the second one.
Everybody okay? Anyone get bit? I'm okay. I'm okay.
Look at them. They never stop.
We could fight our whole lives and never make a goddamn difference.
I think I can help with them.
This is it. Any closer and those AA guns will tear me up.
Wouldn't want to scratch your paint job.
Get inside the power plant. Take cover and wait for Phoenix to draw the locals away.
Copy that, Alpha.
Bam!
Now we are on to the second mission. An aerial approach to the military base, hope I'm getting that right. To acquire this heavy firepower, the chopper drops a team off to avoid being shot down by anti-air defences. This means the team needs to get to the base on foot. The story doesn't develop much through this mission, but it's still enjoyable and I think it's a pretty fun mission. Throughout this mission, our team escorts green gold through the hydropower facility and some other areas. While going through my gameplay as I made this video, I began to realise that I don't get some of the reviews about this game. I don't refer to player reviews, people enjoyed this game a lot in general, but reviewers and game journalists had some strong issues. PC Gamer, for example, a reviewer gave the game 6 out of 10, claiming the game was bland and forgettable. I'm not really sure what to say, so I'm just going to leave this point, as in my first video I basically said the complete opposite and gave this game a lot of credit in that area. Something else that he made a point about was he didn't really find the characters to be in any way in depth, which is true in gameplay sense, but that is common now in most games. Characters don't have in-depth stories on the surface in gameplay. This can be found behind collectibles or some sort of external storytelling device, and I find this point relatively ignorant, especially as a game reviewer. So the main point of that was just to give you an idea, not all, but some game journalist views of the game. Also, because I will admit, there isn't much to say about this mission in particular, it's rather insignificant, so with that, I say after that tangent, we'll move on to the next one.
All of you just shut up for a second!
I think we're losing them.
Phoenix, I think we made it. Sit tight back here, Doc.
But I know the layout of the compound.
Can't risk it, even with your pistol skills.
We'll let you know when it's safe.
That's not gonna budge without a breach.
Our team have made it to the facility, being so close to our goal, and gaining ground in a global conflict against the infected. They push to a bunker that will allow them access through the ventilation systems to get further into the base. Now that the story has been covered so far, we will get back into looking a little more at the external reviews and game reception, keeping within the theme of the episode. So, let's have a look at IGN. Turns out they agreed with some of my points from the last episode, so this should inflate my ego a little. A lack of variety and ambition can't stop a good friend-filled zombie slashing. That's a quote from IGN on its review of the game, and I do agree the game is made better by friends, although none of mine own it or refuse to play it with me, so it's very sad indeed. I don't particularly agree with the variety comment IGN made, although I sort of agree and understand the ambition comment. The fact the game lacks variety, I feel, is a really subjective point that they've made. I feel as although the gameplay feels fresh because of the level design that I spoke about in the previous episode. Obviously, I have made it clear I really enjoy it. Something said in the review, by the reviewers, is that they felt the gas room covered in the first episode of the New York campaign was a really good standout episode that really cracked up the campaign. Just quickly, I'm trying different editing formats, so if you think this episode is too simplistic or have some other feedback like my scripting sucks, which is true, this entire line I'm about to do is a full page long, then please tell me. Anyway, so, IGN gave the game a 7.4, which is meh. I'll explain why. An out of 10 rating system is supposed to represent how good a game is. We should all get that because the same goes for movies and such. With games, a 1 means it's so poor and it's so glitchy you can't even start the game without it setting your console or PC on fire. Like so bad it gets a lawsuit, kinda like Fallout 76. I'd say these kind of games are a 1 to 3 on the scale. Games that are just disappointing, vapid, lame and have nothing going for them, like No Man's Sky in early release, are a 4 to 5. Games that have some effort but just fail to really deliver are a 6 to 7. These games are good but lack something to be amazing. and an 8 to 10 are really good games of very few or no issues. People get confused over this and say 5 is an average, and being above 5 is above in general and below is obviously below standard. I never got this because that's not an average, that's not a mean or a median. The real average for a game, compared to most of the industry, is about a 6.5. This means that WWZ got an average, which is why I'm making this video. It deserves to be at least a little above average. I did say I'd cover this in another episode, and I may go into it in more detail, but for now, this will get everybody caught up with rating systems. So, I think we have covered a good couple of reviews, but as the series goes on, I hope we can gain a full perspective of the game together. I'm looking forward to covering Moscow in the next video, so that should be coming hopefully in a week or so after the release of this video. Now we have covered that, we can get back to the game. Something I do love about this game is the level design, and how much the environment changes as the level progresses, particularly in this level. I really do find myself enjoying the last level of each campaign the most. Saber has clearly put a lot of effort into these levels. This is a topic I really want to cover later in the series with the Moscow and Tokyo campaigns, where it's very much emphasised. You can just really tell how cool these levels are and how much thought went into them to make the campaigns memorable and the story feel fleshed out by the end of them all. Right, I think we have got to all the main points I wanted to cover, and it's about time we finish off this video, as even with a low quality content as mine, it still takes hours. I've been speaking about this heavy firepower for a while, and don't worry, you will get to see it in the final cutscene. Once again, thanks for watching, especially if you got this far, I really do appreciate it. Feel free to watch the previous episodes if you want context, but it's not that important. Anyway, here's the final cutscene. I'm gonna go eat some food.
They're good over on the base!
Gringold, how long do you need? Holy